This is urgent information that you must listen to. Watch this video to understand how to use the red cards and then know your right cards that are circulating in the system. Now, with regards to immigration, there are 4 types of people in the United States. Number 1, we have U.S. citizens. Number 2, we have green card holders or lawful permanent residents. Number 3, we have people who are in some type of lawful status, such as people on temporary visas, like the student visas, visitors visas, work visas, asylee status, refugee status. And then number 4, we have the undocumented immigrants. The undocumented immigrants are the people who either enter the U.S. unlawfully without being inspected or admitted, or the people who came in with a visa or some type of entry document and they have overstayed. Now, for the purposes of our discussion, we have to understand the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th Amendment rights with regards to mass deportations that are happening. The 4th Amendment in the Constitution, and again, we have to understand that these rights apply to everybody, whether they're documented or they're undocumented in the United States. The 4th Amendment protects us against unreasonable searches and seizures. One thing to remember is that there's a difference between a judicial warrant and an administrative warrant. Judicial warrant gives ICE officers the right to enter your home without permission. If they ask you if they can enter your home, then obviously they don't have a judicial warrant and you have the right to say no. Again, being at home provides additional protection because you have an expectation of privacy in your home, and you can decline entry to an ICE officer if he doesn't have a proper judicial warrant. We've shared examples of what this should look like. Under the 5th Amendment, there's a right to remain silent. This is where you don't want to say something that can be used against you, so you avoid sharing information to an officer about your immigration status, country of origin, entry into the U.S. And then under the 6th Amendment rights, you have the right to counsel. So you have the right to have an attorney of your choice to help you. Now, we're going to focus here on 2 types of deportations in the U.S. We have the removal proceedings or deportation proceedings, and then we have the expedited removal. With the regular deportation under the INA Section 240, that's where you get a charging document, the NTA notice to appear, Form I-862, and then you have your right to counsel, you have your day in court to assess reliefs and defenses available to you. Now, the other type of removal is the expedited removal. This one there's limited due process, and it's for those who enter the U.S. unlawfully or illegally and generally have been in the U.S. for less than a specified period of time that the DHS will designate. Okay. Now, initially, expedited removal was limited to people who came into the U.S. unlawfully, and if they came in by land, DHS could only put people in expedited removal if they were 100 air miles near a border and they had been in the U.S. for less than 2 weeks. If they came in by sea, the geographic designation was much larger. Now, January 21st, DHS was authorized by the Trump administration to expand deportation, under the process of expedited removal, I should say, for people who enter the U.S. unlawfully and had been in the U.S. for less than 2 years. So now there's a geographic expansion, and there's also length of your residence in the U.S. Okay. Now, the red cards that we shared, know your rights, those cards apply more to people who are in deportation proceedings. This is because when you are in deportation proceedings, you're going to go before an immigration judge for a hearing. And so at that point, if there is, an officer asks you something outside of court and you exercise your right to remain silent, you're pretty much telling him, I'll see you in court, and then I can respond to you. But with the expedited removal process, you do not get a hearing before an immigration judge. It's typically DHS officers who will, if they, apprehend you or they catch you, and they find that you entered the U.S. unlawfully and you are not able to prove that you've had more than 2 years of residence in the U.S., then they can have you do biometrics, and then they can quickly deport you to your country. With expedited removal, there's no appeal process also, right? So now, when it comes to deportation proceedings, the initial burden in court is on the government to prove alienage. However, when it comes to expedited removal, the burden is on the immigrant to show that, number one, he did not enter the US unlawfully. Number two, he has accrued more than 2 years of residency in the United States. If you are unable to show these things, then you will not have your day in court to challenge anything. You will just be bundled up. You go through the expedited removal process that can last a day or a few days, and you are back in your country. Okay, and so this new guidance that the DHS has been issued, where expedited removal has been expanded throughout the United States, and the timeline has also been expanded. If you have been here for less than 2 years, then you can be expeditiously removed. Now the burden is on you to show that you don't fall within the categories of immigrants that should be expedited. And so if you're a US citizen, then I believe that you would prefer to show evidence of this, like your US passport, rather than to have you detained. And the government does have a responsibility under the law to check to check in their database that you are a US citizen. But if you do have evidence of this, you are better off just showing it so that you don't get detained. Now, if you also came in with a visa, you are also better off showing that you don't qualify to be expeditiously removed because you came in with a visa, and perhaps you also have more than 2 years of residency. So then the ICE can see that you should not be removed expeditiously. If you're a green card holder, then the law requires that you should carry your green card on you at all times. It's a misdemeanor if you fail to do so. So if you're a green card holder also, and the government is trying to put you in expedited removal, then you can show evidence of your LPR status, or if you're an asylee or a refugee, then you can do that. Again, if you have an asylum claim, then you can tell them about your fear to be persecuted when you are returned to your home country. Then they can allow you to have a credible fear interview in front of an immigration officer. Okay. So it's important that you understand how to use the Know Your Rights cards, because under the new guidance of expedited removal, if you remain silent, then there's the danger that by the time you blink your eyes, you may be back in your country. Obviously, they are not going to deport US citizens. If you do make the claim that you're a US citizen, then they'll verify. But, well, if you don't say anything, then nobody's going to know that you are a US citizen. So you have the right to remain silent, but rights doesn't mean that you utilize your rights everywhere and in every situation. It's very important for you to work out something with your attorney. If you are caught or stopped, then you know what kind of documents you must show so that you don't further implicate yourself under this new guidance of expedited removal. And I must say again that if you came into the US without a visa and you have more than 2 years of residence in the United States, then you should not be removed expeditiously, or you're not eligible for expedited removal. If you came into the US with a visa and you also have less than 2 years of residence in the US, you also don't qualify to be removed expeditiously. The people that are being quickly deported are people that came in unlawfully and they have less than 2 years of residence in the US. Obviously, they're also prioritizing people with very dangerous criminal records, national threat to national security, and those types of dangerous criminals. And so this is for your information. So please, I hope this helps. This provides some clarity on how to utilize your Know Your Rights cards and your red cards. These are very important tools to have in your arsenal or in your toolbox, but be guided and know when to use what. I wish you guys all the best. I'll see you soon in our next video. Bye.